Welcome back, everybody. So today we are going to be going over some Bitcoin related news and some things what I find very interesting in relation to Bitcoin and the crypto space. And also as well, I just want to address a few things what I have been receiving on Instagram. Now, the first thing on the Instagram side of things, I have a few people who've been messaging me basically saying, why is the Instagram page significantly large and why is the YouTube channel obviously quite low, right? I mean, there's 1.3 million people on Instagram and there's about 1,000 people on YouTube. Now, the reason for that is that the Instagram account is severely shadow banned. If I talk about markets, economics, finance, anything in that remit, Instagram doesn't like it, so these posts are massively suppressed. Obviously, if I start to link out to YouTube, Instagram doesn't actually like that, so they really restrict the reach of the posts. Now, if I talk about anything what is obviously outside of that category, the posts do exceptionally well. So, I mean, a few weeks ago, I posted something in relation to ChatGPT, and that post got about 5 million impressions and a shed load of likes. So the thing is, the account is just severely shadow banned. So obviously, this is the reason why I'm trying to build up this YouTube channel. Also, as well, I have been receiving quite a few messages, especially when I post something what is, let's say, market driven. I probably get about 30 to 40 messages basically just saying bullish or bearish or long and short. And the thing is, I don't really want to get into these types of discussions and these types of messages because I really don't think it's the best way to be investing. Now, I'll put up here my investment kind of like Excel checklist. This checklist is completely free, so don't worry, it doesn't cost you or anything like that. But basically, it's a checklist what I think, what I use to go over, let's say, investments, to make sure that I understand what I actually own and why I actually own it. Now, I am fully aware that obviously in today's age, a lot of people want things very quickly. They want to know, is this bullish or bearish? Should I be going long or short? And to be honest with you, this type of mentality, this type of herd mentality and emotional trading will get you in a lot of trouble, especially when it comes to, let's say, I mean, for example, right? Let's say you took out a position and the position goes down 20%. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to be buying more? Are you going to be selling? What are you going to do? And this is the thing. A lot of people who get into these different types of positions, they don't really know what to do. So they just end up selling. And this is the thing. It's just like they just end up losing money. So that Excel sheet is what I personally use in terms of taking out the emotion, especially when it comes to making an investment. Now, anyway, obviously, if you want to get that, you can get that here. I'll put it in the description box as well. But anyway, let's get into the rest of the video. So basically, the Trump cabinet. So basically what I did, I went to Wikipedia. I basically got everybody who was in the Trump cabinet, and I got everybody who was around Trump as well. And I put it into ChatGPT, I put it into Grok, and I basically just said, please give me a holistic overview in terms of their background. Do they have any background in financial markets or anything in relation to crypto or Bitcoin or anything like that? So obviously, Grok and ChatGPT basically came back with a table, and in that table, I think a lot of people already know this anyway, but there's a guy who's called Howard Lutnick, who is the Secretary of Commerce. There's a few other different people as well who I've been kind of doing research on and looking at their positions and what they might have exposure to. But Howard Lutnick, who's the Secretary of Commerce, he was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. And basically, when I start to look at their current positions, now, again, he's not supposed to have any influence in these positions, right? But when I start to look into it, 20% of his portfolio is in MSTR, and they've basically increased this position from the 14th of February significantly. And they have a lot of exposure in relation to Bitcoin. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is because there's a lot of, let's say, news out there, what is making people, what is wearing people down in terms of price action. People think, oh, because Trump was going to come in, that obviously prices are going to go up and go through the roof. Now, in my previous video, I was basically highlighting that I do think that a lot of this volatility is specifically on purpose, because when you start to look at the debt and the interest rates, I do think that they need to get the interest rates down to obviously refinance the debt. And obviously doing that, they really need to bring the market down. But anyway, outside of all of that, when I start to look at these positions, it's pretty obvious that a lot of large institutions, a lot of smart money is getting into Bitcoin and crypto on the entire stack, from Bitcoin mining businesses, from exchanges, from obviously companies what have exposure to Bitcoin. So if we start to look at, let's say, MSTR, we can pretty much see there's a lot of different types of hedge funds who are getting large exposure to MSTR. I mean, IMC Chicago LLC basically increased their position in MSTR by about 150%, BlackRock by 20%, Citadel Advisors by about 40%. Now, again, we do have some hedge funds who have been, let's say, trimming their position, like Vanguard, who dropped their shares by about 6.5%. But when you start to look at the level of exposure what a lot of these large institutions have in terms of MSTR, they have basically been significantly increasing their position in this company. Now, obviously, my 2 cents is, why is this actually happening? And why are they actually doing this? And again, I think it's because they are all anticipating, obviously, a very pro-crypto and a very pro-administration, especially when it comes to the Bitcoin reserve and obviously the legislation, what is obviously going to come out of the administration. And again, what happened yesterday as well, we had Eric Trump, who's the son of Donald Trump, basically merged with Hut 8. So Hut 8 is a Bitcoin mining business. I know quite a lot about Hut 8, to be honest, and their operations. But again, it's just very, very interesting how his sons are basically getting into the Bitcoin mining space. And again, it's kind of like drawing a lot of lines, right? And how a lot of things are interconnected. Now, also, as well, what I found very interesting, what was talked about last week, what again, I don't think many people are actually talking about, is the Federal Reserve was urged to obviously help hedge funds out in a like bailout crisis when it comes to the US Treasury markets. So let me just kind of bring this up. So you can basically see the US Federal Reserve should consider setting up an emergency program that would close out highly leveraged hedge fund trades in the event of a crisis in the 29 trillion US Treasury markets, according to a panel of experts. Now, for starters, why is this even being proposed? And again, I think when you start to look under the headline, I think there's a lot of things bubbling away inside Japan, and I don't think many people are actually paying attention to that. And again, I know we had the yen carry trade a few months ago, but I think we could have a similar type of thing play out in the US Treasury markets. Now, obviously, a lot of hedge funds are hoping that the Fed would bail them out of these positions in case anything started to unwind significantly. And this is the thing, right? It's like privatize profits and socialize losses. And again, I think this would be absolutely detrimental to the US dollar, because obviously the Fed would be printing money and obviously buying these treasuries and obviously bailing out all of these hedge funds because they have too much exposure to the US Treasury market. Now, that is just something what I found very, very interesting. I'll obviously link that down below in the description box. Also, as well, what I wanted to kind of highlight, now I know that this is the cohorts of generations in terms of their wealth profile. Now, this is just in relation to where the price of Bitcoin could be going in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Now, this chart is from 2023. Now, obviously, you can kind of find something what obviously is more up to date, but I just want to kind of highlight this, and that the baby boomers basically have 80 trillion in assets. Gen X have about 50 trillion, silent generation has about 20 trillion, and millennials have about 15 trillion. Now, when you start to go down, what type of assets do these generations own and what do they feel very comfortable in? You can kind of see that the baby boomers feel very comfortable in index funds, bonds, REITs, dividend stocks. Generation X is ETFs, real estate, 401ks. And when you start to get to millennials and Gen Zs, they are very much more tech savvy and more DIY investors. They typically have ETFs, index funds, crypto, individual stocks. And when it comes to Gen Z, they mainly have a strong interest in crypto, NFTs, and fractional shares. Now, again, it's like, now when it comes to inheritance, especially when it comes to the baby boomers, to millennials and Gen X and obviously Gen Z, what could potentially be happening? Now my assumption is that you could probably take 5 to 10% of that entire cohort of assets and allocate it to Bitcoin and crypto assets. Now, obviously, when millennials inherit all of that wealth and when Gen Z obviously inherits all of that wealth, where does that money actually start to flow to? And I think these generations feel very, very comfortable in crypto rather than old generations. And I think a lot of that is to do with obviously being brought up on the internet. And again, I just wanted to kind of highlight this in this video, to kind of obviously zoom out a little bit and obviously just not necessarily be thrown around by the actual noise. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of highlight that here. But obviously, I know it can be a little bit tricky in terms of, you know, being thrown around a little bit, especially when it comes to a price action and news and is Bitcoin going to go down? Is Bitcoin going to go up? And why is that going to happen? And blah, 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 blah. I think longer term, I think as these assets obviously get transferred over to millennials and Gen Z, I think we'll start to see a larger allocation in portfolios to Bitcoin into crypto assets. And obviously, as a result, these assets will start to obviously increase in price. And also as well, I just wanted to highlight that large institutions and money managers and smart money is basically allocating into the entire stack, from Bitcoin miners to exchanges to obviously the underlying assets themselves. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of highlight, please do not be shaken out by obviously the news and price action and all the rest of it when there's bigger things going on at play. And a lot of these large institutions are not necessarily being shaken by the news. So anyway, I know I probably rambled on a little bit too long, but to the 4 people who keep on supporting me, I hope you're having a lovely day and take care.